from where you sit. Welcome to another exciting episode of The Trading Bell, where we track your money with a look at the shares as well as the securities market. Today on the program, we'll be hosting the Chief Executive Officer of the Central Depository and Settlement Corporation, Rose Mambo. But really, who is Rose? Let's take a look at her profile. Rose holds an MBA from Strathmore University, a Master of Laws degree from the American University in Washington, D.C., specializing in international business law, and a Bachelor of Laws degree from the University of Nairobi. Rose is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and a fellow of the Institute of Certified Secretaries of Kenya. She has worked as a state counsel at the Attorney General's office and at the Nairobi Securities Exchange as company secretary and head of legal and compliance. Well, many thanks, Rose, for making time for us. A pleasure to have you on the Trading Bell.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you had a very interesting organization that plays a vital role in Kenya. Perhaps let's just begin by, what does the Central Settlement and Depository Corporation all involve?
CDSC settles all the transactions that are traded on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. So what that means is that as an investor, you must have a CDS account if you're planning to trade on the exchange. So in that CDS account, we deposit all your securities, mostly equities and corporate bonds. Then anytime you trade, we are either transferring securities out of your account or into your account if you're a buyer. So that's on the securities side. Then on the money side, we handle the settlement of cash. So all the buyers deposit the cash with their stockbrokers, and all the stockbrokers participate in the settlement, where we use various settlement banks and the Central Bank of Kenya to do the settlement. So the settlement happens on a daily basis, but it's really on a rolling T+3 cycle. So every time you trade, your transaction settles after 3 days. And so we basically house all the securities that are listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. We then manage corporate action. So for example, if a company has a bonus share, we then add those securities to your account. If there's a corporate action, maybe there's a rights issue, then we handle the rights issue, deposit the rights into your account, facilitate the trading of those rights, and then eventually settle the rights into the buyer's accounts.
All right.
And then for individuals, for example, maybe you want to borrow money from a bank and use your shares as security. So we'll mark a lien on your account, and then you're able to borrow from the bank. And once you pay back, we then remove the lien from your account.
All right.
Yeah.
And Rose, of course, many Kenyans would like to have a CDSC account. Perhaps walk us through the steps of setting up an account. Is it similar to what we go through when you go to a bank and you're trying to open a new account?
It's very similar because we go through the same processes. One, your identification, proof of residence, and all these things you take to your stockbroker. So your stockbroker actually opens the account on your behalf. He will require you to do the usual KYC that you would do with a bank. But it's free, so there's nothing for you to pay when you open a CDS account.
All right.
And as soon as your account is open, it takes a short time, a day at the most. You can immediately start trading on the exchange.
All right. So once I open an account, am I given an account number? Am I given a certificate? What's the next step?
You're given an account number. So that account number you'll use for your equities trading and corporate bonds trading. And once you do that, then you're also able to interact with your account. So we avail the accounts online. So you can go to our website and then log into your account, and you're able to see all your holdings. You can print your own statement and just check your balances. Maybe you want to place an order, but you're not sure how many shares you have. So you check your balance, then you're able to interact with your stockbroker and place your orders.
All right. Yeah. I actually asked all this because it forms a foundation for our discussion, Rose. And looking at Kenya right now, we're seeing a very high internet penetration, standing at over 95% in the country, according to the latest numbers from the Communications Authority. And as an organization, how have you been able to leverage on mobile technology in a day and time where we're seeing people transacting to the tune of 1.8 trillion shillings via mobile money?
I think the entire market is actually now beginning to embrace mobile technology. So you find that with several stockbrokers, you can actually trade online through your mobile phone or through the internet. And CDSC facilitates the back end of that. So if you're a trader who has never opened a CDS account, through some stockbrokers, you can actually open the account directly by doing that online. Although there is a limit. If you're trading low amounts, less than 1 million, then you can open the account online directly, and then you're able to trade. In terms of mobile, we actually do have an SMS service where anytime there's a transaction on your account, you receive a message telling you that there's been a transaction on your account. And what we're doing now is to transform that into a mobile app, because with the app, then you have more functions that you can perform. So all the functions that you can perform online, you can then perform on the app, checking your balances, requesting your statements, and, requesting any services from CDSC. You'll be able to do that through the mobile app.
Uh-huh. And as you move towards technologies around mobile, from you as an organization, what are the cost implications as you look forward to a return on investment?
It's not very costly at the moment. Actually, the main cost will be in marketing the app and promoting it and trying to get people to sign up. So what we've done is, with the technology provider, we've entered into an arrangement where we are looking more at a revenue share rather than buying out the app. This way, the technology provider is involved throughout and maintains the app and is able to upgrade it and to add new functionalities as the CDSC grows and broadens its spectrum of services. So for us, the initial capital outlay is not very heavy, mainly around, like I said, marketing, investor education, promotions, trying to get people to sign up for the app.
All right. Yeah. And as you target to get people to sign up for the app, perhaps just describe for us the landscape in the country right now. Of course, we know a majority of Kenyans are still shy about getting into the securities markets. And even if you look at the number of listed companies, it's now just under 70 companies. Against what we're seeing in Nigeria, what you're seeing in South Africa, we have much higher numbers. For an organization like yours, for this whole app to work as well as to deepen the financial services market, how do you align yourself towards ensuring you reach out to the right target audience and eventually transition them into becoming people who have interests in the securities exchange?
We actually have a very huge amount of data. Over the past, we've been in operation for about 14 years. And over those years, we've been collecting investor behavior. How do they behave around key events in the country? How do they behave around IPOs? How do they behave when we have, heavy election periods? How do they behave when some other product takes off? Do they flee from the market to invest in this other product and then come back? So we've got a lot of data around investor behavior. And it's this data that we are trying to, use so that we can then really target the app towards that kind of behavior. But also try and show people that investing in the market is actually better than maybe other areas of investment, looking at returns that you would get from other investments and comparing them with investing in the market, and ensuring that this information gets out to our potential investors and potential clients for the app.
All right. Yeah. And on a comparative scale, looking at Kenya and, say, other advanced economies, how would you classify us as a country? Are we in the right direction? Are we getting it right?
I think we're still a little behind. If you look at the numbers of accounts that we have. So, for example, we have 2 million CDS accounts, around about that number. But the number of people who are actually active in the market is probably 3% of that, maybe about 70 to 100,000 people, in a month are the ones who trade on the market. It's pretty low. Yeah. And that's a challenge for us, because the more people who trade, the better the turnover and the better the return for us as a company. And so we need to promote really investors, especially local investors. The other statistic to look at is the participation of foreign investors on the market. So you find that foreign investors are probably 50 to 70% of the market. And that's not good for us, because if an event happens in the Western world, that forces investors to move out, we are left with a very low exposure and low performance.
Yeah.
So we really need to promote our local participation in the market. And that's really through investor education and through other kinds of promotions, marketing. And these are things we need to do jointly with the stock exchange and with the regulator.
All right. Yeah. Speaking about local participation, Kenya did float the first ever mobile traded bond. That was the Emma Kiba. Of course, in different circles, it said that it had a dismal performance, really, eventually. But from where you sit, Rose, it was a major milestone for the country, of course. But has it translated into getting more people to invest in the market?
Maybe I can start by giving you some of the numbers.
Yeah.
So we had 2 offers of Emma Kipa. One was a limited offer, really just testing the market, testing our systems and seeing whether we are ready for such a product. And then the second was now the actual offer.
Yeah.
So in the first offer, we had 100,000 Kenyans just register to use the system. And then about 5,000 people actually buying the bond. So 100,000 registrations is very good for a pilot offer where you're really introducing a new product to the market, and we thought that was pretty good. Then in the main offer, we had another 300,000 Kenyans registering for the offer. And remember, our target audience is really people who have not been exposed to the market before, people who don't even know what a bond is, or people who hear about a bond and think that it's more for the elite or for, your more savvy investor.
The bond that you get in prison.
Or even a prison bond. We really,
Yeah.
So that was our target audience. So I think 400,000 registrations meant that people were interested. People wanted to know more about the product, and people are keen to invest, people are keen to save. They just need a product that makes it easy for them to do that. So from my standpoint, I think it was a success.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't hit the target that we had set for ourselves, especially in the second one.
All right.
Where we only raised 247 million shillings against a target of 1 billion. But these are all lessons that we've learned. What is it that, what was the investor experience? We've taken all the feedback, and when we do go ahead and launch the next one, I think we'll have even better success.
All right. And Rose, as we come to the tail end of our interview, one of the big products that a host of countries are looking forward that Kenya will be getting it right is the derivatives market. And I just want to understand, what will be the role of the CDSC in this, and how will this perhaps help improve the level of participation in the Kenyan market?
So CDSC offers settlement services for a whole variety of products. So whether it's your normal equities, so whether it's the derivatives, even whether it's in the commodities exchange, the way our system is structured, it can actually give you settlement services for a whole variety of products, including derivatives. So if we were to be given the work to settle derivatives, then we would actually be able to do that quite easily. And I think the benefit is that we're already a known entity. People already know what we do. We've built trust in the market. Derivatives transactions usually tend to be more high value than high volume. And so we are able to demonstrate that we are able to handle high-value transactions. We have the trust of the market. We've been regulated over the last 14 years. We've never had an issue with the regulator. So I believe that for us, us being involved in derivatives would actually be a plus for the market.
All right. And Rose, having been in the industry for nearly a decade now, and looking at where Kenya started off from to where it is today, one thing I'm gathering is the biggest challenge is marketing of the products and customer awareness at the end of the day. And what should we look forward to in the near future right now, where we are seeing a lot of interest in African markets? We're seeing the investors are having a very bullish outlook for Kenya. And as the CDSC, what should we look forward to?
We want to facilitate better products, a better range of products in the market. So we want to be able to do, for example, day trading. Right now, you trade today and you have to wait for 3 days to settle the transaction. We want people to be able to trade continuously throughout the day. You buy and sell, depending on how the market is moving, and you take advantage of all those price points in the course of the day. We also want to facilitate securities lending and borrowing. Securities lending and borrowing is where you have your portfolio of securities, which you don't really intend to use over the next maybe several years, but there's somebody else who can borrow those securities and trade with them on the market and pay you a price for that and return them to you at the end of the borrowing contract. So that for us will improve the liquidity of the market and make it even more attractive to people who are looking for more liquid markets. And then the other challenge we've had is the low number of listed companies, as you mentioned earlier. And we are looking at a project together with the Nairobi Securities Exchange and the Association of Stockbrokers to give visibility to companies that have potential for listing. So initially we just list them and say, these are upcoming companies that could eventually graduate to our listing on the exchange. Just give them visibility and let people interact with them and know that these have a potential for listing. And then meanwhile, we groom them and help them prepare their documentation, teach them about the listing process, and eventually then graduate them into the main market. And that then will solve the problem of supply, which is one of the challenges we've been having at the moment.
All right. Yeah. Quite a very positive outlook indeed, Rose Mambo.
Thank you.
Pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you very much.
And of course, it has been an interesting conversation around the Settlement Corporation and some of the key projects that they are looking forward to here in the Kenyan market. And of course, we continue to have interesting talks around this. Well, for now, we want to take a look at how the markets have been trading. What can we say about how the markets are? Is it a volatile time?
We are actually, the last week has been a recovery.